I bet you've never seen anything like this Oliver number 260 from the 1960s. Look at this. 2 arbors, a 5-horse 3-phase motor on each arbor, a 16-inch blade on each arbor. One is fine tooth for cross-cutting, one is skip tooth for ripping. And let me tell you what, this is such a masterpiece of engineering and machining and risk-taking. I just can't wait to show you some of what I've learned this thing can do. So right off the bat, I'm soliciting your comments and your input because some of you guys know about these old tools and I don't. But here's what I've learned so far. You can crank down one saw and then you just keep cranking and cranking and cranking, and there comes the fine tooth. The fine tooth is beautifully adapted to cross-cutting. This was made before sliding compound miter boxes. I think radial arm saws were probably on site. But between this and this 20-pound miter gauge, you can cut a nice, long, smooth, accurate square cut on a pretty wide board. This is primarily what I use this for instead of the saw stop. But occasionally, like with this board, I needed to rip down some 4x8s, I think, for a dining room table I made for a friend. We did a video of that. So, you crank and crank and crank, and pretty soon, up comes the saw that is made for serious ripping. This thing will come up until it will rip and clear about 4 1/8 inches. Call it 4. Let me show you what that's like. First thing you got to do is start the 3-phase power. I do that right here. Got a rotary 3-phase converter. Bam. My friend Kevin Eckerman wired that in for me. All right, the rotary converter is sending 3-phase power. Boom. So yeah, that's intimidating, but that's power. It's like a little sawmill right here in my shop. That thing did not even know that it was ripping 4 inches of Douglas fir. Now it might know it was ripping oak, but it wouldn't be a bit afraid. So there's 26 cranks to get that up high enough to do a crosscut. Frankly, cross-cutting is the thing that this does better than the saw stop. In almost every case, besides an impossibly big rip or a nice smooth crosscut, the saw stop, it's just not scary. I love my saw stop, but boy, you talk about romance. This thing has romance. It's pretty amazing how smooth that cut is. There's pretty much no tear out on the bottom. It's so nice. And it is perfectly square. How do you beat that? So for those of you who are wondering, why in the world do you need 2 blades? Well, look at 2 things. Look at that sawdust from that first cut. Those are ripping chunks. That's the kind of thing you see out of a sawmill, like the one I built when I was a kid. big, heavy cuts for big, heavy skip tooth teeth. The teeth on that other blade, not this one, but the other one, are about 1.5 inches apart. But when you turn this one up, see, that's about 3/4 of an inch between teeth, and it's a narrower kerf. It's like half the kerf. That's what accounts for this gloriously smooth cut with no tear out on either side, even though there's not an insert, and you've got almost 1/4 of an inch unsupported and 1/8 of an inch unsupported. It's just turning so fast, the teeth are coming at it so quickly that you get a glass smooth cut with no tear out. So, you know, I don't know exactly what the analog for that is in ordinary table saws. You know, feed slow, and a saw stop has no vibration. It's almost as steady and stable as this one. But boy, there are some things that this does head and shoulders above anything else I've ever seen. But you can never forget that this will hurt you head and shoulders worse than anything else you've ever seen. So full disclosure, I think it probably took me half an hour to sort of wrap my head around how this fence works. The fence bevels, it angles, it retreats and advances, and is measured against the calibrations on the table like this, or you can fasten this and then adjust it just almost machine tolerances. I mean, just ever so slowly, so that's nice, right? But check this out. I don't know who would be gutsy enough to try to run, you know, a cut across the top of a blade to get a cove, and it's adjustable, and you can bevel it. But then I was thinking when I first opened this up, well, I got to get further away than that. Well, you can get further away than that, because the whole thing detaches from the table like that. And you can then put these pins back in here like this. And now you can get out to about 23 inches. And there's room to do it one more time and get out another 6 inches. So, I mean, the old timers were smarter than I am. We already knew that. The thing that I have to do is that this saw does not have a riving knife. And with all that power, a kickback with this thing would tear my shop down. In fact, the very first time I ran a board through here, and I have B-roll of it, you might be watching it right now, as I was coming out of the very first rip, a little 3/4 inch cedar knot, bam, came out of there and just kind of glanced off the inside of my right bicep, as if to say, on guard, buddy, you better be paying attention when you walk up to this table saw. So the riving knife has got to go here someplace, just to provide a splitter, to reduce the possibility of something falling into the saw. I'm not putting the factory guard back on it, it's just too unwieldy. I think I'll make or machine or have machined something, little bolt right there that the table can slide by. I've got that much room, so I have to figure that out. And I mean, I have to figure that out. But in general, whether or not it's practical, it's wonderful. As I wrap this up, I've got to point out that I did not imagine that a saw like this existed until one day a few years ago I walked into Dave Engel's coat shop in Joliet, Montana, and saw his and fell in love. And then a friend of mine called to say, hey, he found one and he thought I could get a hold of it, and I did, and man, I just love it so much. But the elephant in the living room is I've lived my life taking a few chances, or at least doing work that is considered to be risky, and I've been lucky and I've been careful, and God willing that will continue. But I'm not taking any chances with my kids or my grandkids. Nobody's going to walk into this shop and use this thing with my permission unless they, like myself, have had a lot of time in grade doing things that could bite you bad. Because I love my grandkids. And at the end of the day, if anything happened to them on my watch, I don't know how I would ever get over it. So it's the saw stop for them when I teach them the joys of woodworking. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.